In 1799, British scientists received a mysterious specimen from Australia. They were baffled. Was it a hoax? A weird joke? In 2003, they were estimated to be about 100,000 platypuses in Australia. The platypus is also a protected species under Australian law. In some parts of its range, it can be hunted only by landowners and their immediate family members, with special permits from state wildlife departments. International trade is prohibited under CITES regulations, and local laws have been put in place to prevent poaching. The creature, with its fur, duckbill and webbed feet, would have appeared even more paradoxical had it been known that it laid eggs and suckled its young. No animal was known to do that. Furthermore, no animal was supposed to do that. Some thought it was simply an hoax. In the taxonomy established for European species by European naturalists, it was axiomatic that all milk-producing animals give birth to live young, and so by definition are mammals. Warm-blooded egg-laying animals were birds. Cold-blooded egg-laying animals were reptiles. There was no place in this scheme for the platypus. If not a hoax, then Ornithorhynchus was truly paradoxical. New findings only added to the paradox. In 1802, the surgeon and anatomist Sir Everard Home reported that the males had internal testes, like reptiles and unlike mammals, and that both males and females had a cloaca, a common opening for the alimentary, excretory and reproductive tracts. Possession of a cloaca is a reptilian characteristic, more particularly a characteristic of reptiles that retain their eggs within the body, where the young hatch. Such a mixture of structures quickly established the notion of the platypus as a missing link between reptiles and mammals. Platypuses now reside in the class Mammalia, subclass Prototheria, order Monotremata, and family Ornithorhynchidae. However, in the years after their discovery, these animals were placed in an amazing range of existing taxa and had numerous taxa created especially for them. Shaw, the first zoologist to examine a live specimen, included them with toothless mammals, anteaters and sloths, in a group that Linnaeus called Bruta, now known as the Edentata. Shaw, 1799-1800. Home thought that they belonged to a new tribe of mammals. Home, 1802. Geoffroy argued for a separate vertebrate class for the platypus and echidna, which he named Monotremata because of the single opening for gut, urinary and genital systems, but he was vague about their relationship to other mammals. Lamarck grouped platypuses and echidnas in a new non-mammalian class, the Prototheria, whereas the German anatomist J.K.W. Illige created the division Reptantia, intermediate between reptiles and mammals. Henri de Blainville, the French anatomist and Georges Léopold Cuvier's successor in the chair of comparative anatomy at the Paris Natural History Museum, created a separate order of mammals, the Ornithodelphia, allied to marsupials. Although Meckel discovered the mammary glands, he was not convinced that they were true mammalian mammary glands. He therefore argued that the platypus occupied a class by itself. Many of the Australian quadrupeds and birds are not only peculiar to that country, but are, even there, of comparatively rare occurrence. And such has been the war of extermination recklessly waged against, that they are in a fair way of becoming extinct. Even in our own time, several have been exterminated, and unless the hand of man be stayed from their destruction, the Ornithorhynchus and the echidna, the emu and the megapodius like the dodo, moa and notornis will shortly exist only in the pages of the naturalist. The author hopes that what he has been induced to say with reference to this important subject will not be without weight to every thoughtful colonist. Bennett, 1860, PE 6. Indeed, by the turn of the century, the platypus was close to extinction. Now protected by severe penalties, however, platypuses are flourishing. On the 2nd of September 1834, Caldwell's discovery, Monotremes oviparus ovum meroblastic, which has few rivals for pithy succinctness, was announced in dramatic fashion to the annual meeting of the British Association for the Advancement of Science in Montreal. It took the delegates by storm. Finally, the mystery of the platypus egg production was resolved. The 4 words in the cable each carried a wealth of meaning. Monotremes do lay eggs. Those eggs contain large amounts of yolk. The yolk is not divided into cells. A large yolked undivided egg is what birds lay. The monotreme egg is therefore just like a bird's egg. Bennett spent 50 years in Australia unsuccessfully attempting to unravel the mysteries of monotreme and marsupial biology. His efforts were those of a part-time naturalist, attempting to coax out the secrets of nature, concerned for the conservation of the animals and aided only by two lazy aborigines, as he described them in a letter to Owen. Caldwell, on the other hand, wrenched secrets from nature, boasted of the numbers of animals he slaughtered, and put an army of aborigines to work to achieve his ends. In 3 months of 1884 alone, he killed 70 females from a single pond in an attempt to find eggs or embryos. In July and August 1885, Caldwell employed 150 aborigines to collect, that is, slaughter, 1,400 echidna, nest building, and the platypus as a link between bird and beast were evidently what Ogden Nash, 1953, had in mind when he penned, "I like the duck-billed platypus. Because it is anomalous, I like the way it raises its family, partly birdly, partly mammally." Of 20th century students of the platypus, Harry James Burrell has the double distinction of publishing the first major work on the platypus, Burrell, 1974, based on a lifetime of study, and developing in 1910 the first platypusary to maintain animals in captivity. This was no mean feat. It took him 6 hours a day to collect the 0.5 kilograms of earthworms, 30 crayfish, 200 mealworms, 2 frogs and 2 eggs, consumed by a 15 kilograms animal in a single day. This daily food intake is more than half the animal's weight. Having spent so much time studying the platypus's ability to spend so much time underwater, it is ironic that Burrell died in his bath. The adorable platypus showed scientists that sometimes we have to rethink what we know. Today, the platypus is a symbol of the great pillar of nature, diversity. So next time you think something's impossible, just remember the platypus.